Toy Story wasn't just the first fully computer animated feature film, it was the cinematic revolution that transformed animation forever, launched Pixar into the stratosphere, and redefined what childhood wonder could look like on the big screen. Almost 3 decades later, we're still discovering hidden gems about this groundbreaking classic. You think you know everything about Woody, Buzz, and the gang? Think again. Today, I'm counting down 15 bizarre, hilarious, and downright mind-blowing facts about Toy Story that will make you see this beloved film in a completely new light. And trust me, number 3 had me questioning everything I thought I knew about this movie. Ready to have your childhood memories completely rewired? Let's dive in. Number 15. The entire movie had less computing power than your smartphone. Toy Story was rendered on a rendering farm that would be embarrassingly underpowered compared to the device you're probably watching this video on right now. The entire Pixar studio, responsible for creating the world's first fully computer animated feature film, ran on a network of just 117 computers with a combined storage capacity of approximately 2 terabytes. To put this in perspective, individual frames of the film could take between 4 and 13 hours to render. The opening scene where Woody addresses the toys, reports suggest a single second of that footage required nearly a week of continuous computing. According to veterans of the production, the entire film required roughly 800,000 machine hours to render, a process that would take just days with modern technology. Have you ever wondered why the humans in Toy Story look so, let's say, stylized? It wasn't purely an aesthetic choice. The computational limitations meant human characters had to be drastically simplified. Hair was particularly problematic, which explains Andy's plastic-looking mop and his mom's conspicuously static style. These technical constraints actually shaped Pixar's early aesthetic, forcing creative solutions that ironically helped the film avoid the uncanny valley problem that plagued later CGI productions with more powerful technology but less artistic restraint. Number 14. The original title was literally Toy Story, spelled backwards. For a brief, bizarre moment in animation history, Pixar's debut feature film nearly hit theaters with the title Yaratsats. Yes, you read that correctly. During early development, some executives thought a more distinctive, unusual name might help this experimental film stand out in the crowded family entertainment landscape. According to former Pixar staffers, this backwards title survived for approximately 3 weeks in 1993 before John Lasseter reportedly put his foot down. How exactly are parents supposed to pronounce that? He allegedly asked during a particularly tense meeting. Your rot sots? You rot sots? We're making a movie about toys that come to life, not summoning some ancient demon. The bizarre title experiment speaks volumes about the uncertainty surrounding this first ever computer animated feature. Nobody, not even Pixar, truly understood what they were creating or how audiences would respond. This uncertainty influenced everything from marketing to merchandise plans, making the entire production a massive leap of faith that would ultimately redefine animation forever. Number 13. Woody was originally a tyrannical ventriloquist dummy. The cowboy doll we all know and love was initially conceptualized as something far more disturbing, a vindictive ventriloquist dummy who ruled Andy's room with an iron fist. Early storyboards depicted Woody as genuinely malevolent, ordering other toys around and actively plotting to destroy Buzz out of pure jealousy. This villainous Woody was so off-putting that during an infamous early screening for Disney executives, the room reportedly fell silent. Jeffrey Katzenberg is said to have stood up and declared the film unwatchable with such a despicable protagonist. The project was temporarily shut down, a period Pixar employees now grimly refer to as Black Friday. But here's the question everyone misses. What if they'd kept evil Woody? Would we have gotten a darker, more complex meditation on jealousy instead of the heartwarming tale we know today? The story's dramatic rewrite transformed Toy Story from potential box office disaster to beloved classic, and more importantly, established Pixar's commitment to character depth over cheap laughs, a philosophy that would define their subsequent 2 decades of storytelling. Number 12. Tom Hanks took the role because of Turner and Hooch. Tom Hanks didn't immediately jump at the chance to voice a cartoon cowboy in an experimental animated film. In fact, what finally convinced him was a peculiar connection to one of his previous films, specifically his experience working with a drooling canine co-star. When Pixar approached Hanks, he was riding high off Philadelphia and Forrest Gump, with consecutive Oscar wins making him one of Hollywood's most bankable stars. So why risk his reputation on an unproven animation technique? According to Lasseter, Hanks mentioned his challenging experience on Turner and Hooch, where he had to convince audiences he genuinely cared about a dog that was, in reality, often uncooperative on set. "If I could make audiences believe I loved that slobbering dog," Hanks reportedly told Lasseter, "I can probably convince them to care about a plastic toy cowboy." This decision would ultimately help legitimize animation voice acting as a prestigious pursuit for A-list actors rather than a career sideshow, permanently altering how Hollywood stars approach animated projects and how studios cast them. Number 11. The first test animation nearly got the whole movie canceled. Before diving into full production, Pixar created a 30-second test animation featuring Woody and a crude prototype of Buzz. This animation, intended to showcase the studio's capabilities, nearly became Toy Story's death sentence. The test featured stiff movements, unsettlingly smooth faces, and what one Disney executive allegedly described as dead-eyed dolls moving like possessed mannequins. The uncanny valley effect was so pronounced that several executives questioned whether computer animation was ready for feature-length storytelling at all. Some suggested pivoting to traditional animation with perhaps a few computer-generated elements, but would traditional animation have captured the plastic, manufactured quality that made the toys feel authentic? Probably not. This early misstep forced Pixar to completely overhaul their character design philosophy, deliberately stylizing the toys to avoid realistic human features and focusing instead on caricatured expressions that would read clearly without looking unsettling. This foundational design principle would influence not just Toy Story, but virtually every computer animated film that followed. Number 10. Disney demanded a more edgy Buzz Lightyear. In an ironic twist that perfectly encapsulates mid-95 studio thinking, Disney executives pushed for Buzz Lightyear to be more radical and edgy, complete with suggested catchphrases like "to infinity and beyond," "dudes," and a proposed skateboarding scene. These suggestions came during Disney's aggressive pursuit of the tween demographic, with executives concerned that Toy Story might skew too young without some attitude. Notes from development meetings reveal proposals for Buzz to wear sunglasses in certain scenes and to incorporate what one memo described as mild "tude" that the kids are into these days. Did nobody stop to consider that the kids might connect more with authentic characters than transparently calculated coolness? Evidently not. Pixar pushed back on most of these suggestions, arguing that Buzz's charm came from his earnest unawareness of being a toy, not from forced hipness. This early creative standoff established a crucial precedent for Pixar's storytelling autonomy that would be tested repeatedly throughout their Disney partnership, ultimately preserving the studio's distinctive voice. Number 9. The film was completely reanimated twice. In what might be the most expensive animation do-over in cinema history, Toy Story underwent not one but two complete restarts during its production, with entire sequences scrapped and rebuilt from the ground up. The first restart came after the infamous Black Friday disaster when Disney nearly pulled the plug. But less well known is the second restart, which occurred just 9 months before release when Pixar upgraded their rendering software mid-production. This technological leap allowed for more complex textures and lighting, but meant approximately 60% of the already completed animation had to be redone to maintain visual consistency. Imagine spending months creating something only to deliberately destroy it and start again. That's exactly what the Pixar team did, twice. This costly commitment to quality established Pixar's reputation for perfectionism and technological innovation, setting an almost impossibly high standard for computer animation that competitors would spend years trying to match. The restarts also explain why Toy Story, despite its landmark status, still has noticeably simpler animation than its 1999 sequel. Number 8. Tim Allen was the studio's 27th choice for Buzz Lightyear. Before Tim Allen donned the imaginary spacesuit, Pixar and Disney approached a staggering 26 other actors for the role of Buzz Lightyear. This included obvious A-listers like Bill Murray, Chevy Chase, and Jim Carrey, but also some surprising considerations including, reportedly, Patrick Stewart and Robert Goulet. The studio originally envisioned Buzz with a deeper, more commanding voice to contrast with Woody's folksy drawl. According to casting notes, they sought someone who could deliver Captain Kirk gravitas with a touch of used car salesman. Billy Crystal was formally offered the role but declined, a decision he later called one of his biggest career regrets. So how did Tim Allen, then primarily known for Home Improvement, land the iconic role. Would you believe it came down to a scheduling conflict? Alan's casting, initially considered a compromise, proved serendipitous. His blend of bravado and vulnerability gave Buzz a dimension that resonated with audiences and created the perfect counterbalance to Hanks's Woody. This happy accident demonstrates how sometimes the most iconic casting decisions aren't the ones studios originally envisioned. Number 7. Animators had to legally change their names to work on the film. While working on Toy Story, a small group of Pixar animators actually filed legal paperwork to change their middle names to Andy, a dedication to their craft that borders on the pathologically obsessive. According to studio lore, this began as a joke during a particularly grueling crunch period when one animator quipped they were spending so much time on Andy's room they might as well move in. The joke evolved into a pact among 4 core team members who legally added Andy as their middle name, a commitment they maintained even after the film wrapped. I mean, seriously, imagine explaining that on a first date. So, why is your middle name Andy? Well, I legally changed it because of a cartoon boy I helped animate in 1995. Yikes. This bizarre anecdote highlights the almost cult-like dedication among early Pixar employees who viewed themselves not just as technical artists, but as pioneers establishing a new animation frontier. Such extreme commitment helped foster the studio's renowned perfectionism and explains why even decades later. Their early work holds up remarkably well. Number 6. The film contained several censored adult jokes. Beneath Toy Story's family-friendly veneer lies a surprising number of adult-oriented jokes that barely made it past Disney's censors. While most remained subtle enough for the final cut, several others were toned down or removed entirely. One notorious example involves Woody's reaction to meeting Bo Peep, which originally included what one animator described as unmistakable bedroom eyes and a line about wanting to engage in the midnight tango. The sequence was deemed too suggestive and reworked to the more innocent flirtation in the final film. Another censored moment involved Potato Head, who initially reassembled his parts incorrectly after a fall, resulting in his nose being placed elsewhere. When other toys reacted with shock, he was meant to respond, "What? I'm just giving myself a little enhancement. Ever wonder why certain scenes feel oddly edited? Now you know." These adult-oriented moments reflect Pixar's early understanding that to succeed commercially, they needed to entertain parents alongside children, a double-layered approach to humor that would become standard practice in animation but was relatively bold for a G-rated film in 1995. Number 5. The famous Pizza Planet truck cost $1.2 million to create. The yellow Pizza Planet delivery truck that appears in virtually every Pixar film began as Toy Story's most expensive digital asset. According to production records, this seemingly simple vehicle cost approximately $1.2 million to design, model, texture, and animate, a staggering sum for what amounts to roughly 15 seconds of screen time. Why so expensive? The truck required unprecedented levels of detail for 1994 technology, including functional headlights, realistic tire treads, and a fully rendered interior that's barely visible in the final film. The rendering time for the truck alone reportedly consumed nearly 3% of the entire film's computing resources. The truck's first animation test crash froze Pixar's entire rendering farm for 36 hours. Let that sink in. The disproportionate investment in this seemingly minor element demonstrates how Pixar was building not just a film, but a technical foundation for future projects. The truck's assets were designed to be reusable, making it easy to insert into subsequent films. An early example of the shared universe concept that would later become a Pixar trademark and contribute to the studio's distinctive visual continuity. Number 4. Randy Newman was hired after 3 other composers quit. Randy Newman's iconic score wasn't Pixar's first choice, or even their fourth. Before Newman came aboard, 3 other composers were attached to the project and subsequently departed, each citing the unprecedented challenges of scoring an entirely computer-animated film. The first composer, whose name has never been publicly disclosed, allegedly quit after 6 weeks, declaring the film unscorable because the uncanny quality of early animation made it impossible to determine the appropriate emotional tone. The second composer completed several themes but departed, after disagreements about whether the music should emphasize the toys' plastic nature or their emotional humanity. It raises the question, would Toy Story feel the same with orchestral grandeur instead of Newman's folksy warmth? Newman's eventual hiring proved another instance of apparent compromise yielding unexpected perfection. His simple, straightforward melodies and plain spoken lyrics captured precisely the balance of humor, melancholy, and wonder that defines Toy Story's emotional landscape, establishing a musical identity for Pixar that would influence their sound for decades. Number 3. Barbie was supposed to save the day in the original ending. In the original screenplay, the film's climactic chase sequence featured a radically different resolution. Woody and Buzz were rescued by a Barbie doll driving a pink Corvette, who would swoop in at the last minute to save our heroes from Sid's clutches. This action-packed finale was fully storyboarded and had reached early animation stages when a significant obstacle emerged. Mattel refused to license Barbie for the film. The toy company, uncertain about this experimental animation technique, worried that association with an unproven film might damage their flagship doll's brand value. Can you imagine a Toy Story without that iconic rocket sequence? The whole third act would have been completely different. This licensing rejection forced a major script overhaul that ultimately strengthened the film by placing the resolution squarely on Woody and Buzz's shoulders rather than introducing a Deus Ex Machina rescue. Mattel's refusal inadvertently improved the storytelling, and after seeing the film's success, the company enthusiastically offered Barbie for the sequel, where she made her memorable Pixar debut. Number 2. The film was banned in 3 countries over toy rights. While Toy Story enjoyed nearly universal acclaim, it encountered unexpected resistance in 3 countries, Thailand, Malaysia, and briefly parts of Sweden, where cultural authorities raised concerns about the film's depiction of toy sentience. In Thailand, censors initially flagged the film for review after Buddhist scholars suggested it might encourage children to attribute consciousness to inanimate objects, potentially conflicting with certain religious teachings. Malaysia similarly delayed release, pending review of whether the film violated animist taboos. Most bizarre was Sweden's brief distribution pause when a child psychologist argued the film might cause toy guilt among children who had discarded or mistreated their toys, potentially creating anxiety disorders. I swear I'm not making this up. All 3 countries eventually approved the film after additional review, but these unusual objections highlight how Toy Story's central premise, that toys secretly possess consciousness, touches on deeper philosophical questions about animism, personhood, and responsibility that resonated and occasionally concerned audiences across vastly different cultural contexts. Number 1. Toy Story, almost launched with a theme park, not a sequel. Before Toy Story even hit theaters, Disney was so confident in its potential that they began developing not a film sequel, but a full-scale Toy Story theme park designed to open just 18 months after the film's release. Early plans reveal an ambitious attraction where visitors would be shrunk down to toy size, a concept eventually incorporated into Toy Story Midway Mania and, years later, Toy Story Land. The proposed park featured a Pizza Planet restaurant, a Buzz Lightyear flight simulator, and even a real-life version of the claw machine with Disney cast members dressed as aliens. Think about that timeline. They were designing roller coasters before audiences had even met these characters. The theme park plans were eventually scaled back to individual attractions when early market testing showed awareness of the film was strong but not sufficient to support a standalone park. This initial overconfidence, however, demonstrates how even before release, Disney recognized they had acquired not just a promising film, but a potential cultural phenomenon, a prediction that would prove remarkably prescient as Toy Story evolved into one of the most beloved and profitable franchises in animation history. And there you have it. 15 bizarre facts that prove Toy Story was even stranger, riskier, and more revolutionary than we remembered. From near cancellations to name-changing animators, this film's journey from concept to classic was anything but smooth. Next time you watch Woody and Buzz race to catch the moving van, remember, you're not just watching a great movie, you're watching a miracle that by all logic should never have made it to the screen. But I'm certainly glad it did. Otherwise, I'd have had to make a video about 15 weird facts about whatever forgettable cartoon would have taken its place instead. Until next time, keep your toys close. You never know who's listening.